Well, welcome, JAYLEN. Thank you for being here today. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to sit and chat with me. For those who are not familiar with you or just don't know you yet, how would you describe yourself, not just as an artist, but as a creative person?
Yeah, so thanks for having me on. I would say that I, as a creative person, am someone who likes to experiment with all kinds of ideas and not put myself into a specific box. I found a lot of freedom over the years by allowing myself to kind of try things that make me uncomfortable, and maybe I'm worried about how an audience will receive something, but I'm primarily I operate in the music realm, so I love to write, record, produce music, performing, all things that have to do with music. I grew up in the church, and I always played instruments in my church's band growing up, and just kind of always surrounded myself with opportunities of ways that I could listen to music and write music and record and produce, and even did a little DJing in there for a while. Like anything that I could do creatively with music, that's kind of primarily been my biggest field of what I've been trying to learn and grow and enjoy.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about your recent project? Just kind of a 500-foot overview.
Yeah. So in February of 2024, I released a 5 track EP called Golden. And it was kind of just a really great first project for me to bring, I don't know, kind of a culmination of years of ideas of songs that I was like, hey, I don't really know what to do with this. And kind of just like a little 5 track selection of some songs that I had fun with, and not really trying to think like, oh, is this the greatest thing ever? And stressing about it, but more so being like, hey, I'm having fun with this, and this is where I'm at right now. And so it's kind of indie, alt, singer songwriter, rock. It's like a blend of a few different things, but it was a lot of fun and challenged me creatively, and it gave me some accountability for like, all right, let's put some tracks together and release something. But yeah, it was super fun.
Right. Well, I want to talk about that specifically because that was the root of how we met. And from, I guess, the beginning of when I met both you and your wife to now, I've noticed that you have a really deep value and deep need for long-term relationship and value those really deeply. So I kind of wanted you to talk about your creative circle because every artist, no matter what type of artist you are, needs their people. So who have been some of the people you've been working with long term recently, and how did you first connect with them?
Yeah. So I would say the first kind of long-term creative relationship I have is with my friend Ethan. Ethan Head from Jacksonville, Florida. He helps in a lot of different ways, but probably the best way to summarize what he does is he's my producer. So he takes the ideas that I have up here and he brings them to life in the sonic realm, like in the actual tangible, like you can now hear it. And so, it could be as dumb as like, hey, I've got this melody and I hear a synth sound like this, or hey, as I'm playing guitar on this, I think it would be cool if we added blah 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 effect to it, or XYZ. He's kind of the guy that goes, all right, that's a great idea, and then like brings it to life. And so we do, I mean, almost everything we've done has been remote and virtually because he lives in Jacksonville, Florida, and I live in Lawrence, Kansas. And so there's kind of a unique challenge there that honestly I think has spurred on more creativity and has kind of challenged me to put more trust in him because he's in more of the physical hands-on realm, and I'm in more of the kind of remote realm when it comes to interaction. So I would say, yeah, Ethan has probably been my longest run, and that goes back to 2019. We've been working on stuff together, so coming up on like 6 years here soon, which is awesome. And I hope that creative relationship never goes anywhere because I think he makes my ideas better, and I think he makes my music better, and I wouldn't be remotely where I am without him. There's plenty of other people I've collaborated with. I have a friend named Charlie Glover who is in a band called Colorway, and really love what he and his friend Isaac are doing in Colorway. They make great music, and Charlie's laid down guitars for some of my stuff. He's also just been like a fun guy to talk to. We share a lot of creative similarities, and it's just been fun to have another person to bounce ideas off of, and that's been fun. My friend Devin Von Balson plays drums in a band called Flip Turn, and these are all these relationships are people I met through Jacksonville, through my time of living in Jacksonville, Florida. And Devin not only is a great drummer, but he has now gotten into the production realm as well. And so whenever I invite him to kind of drum on a track, or what would you envision for the drums here, he also pitches other ideas for other things that are super fun, and like I said, just make the songs better and kind of push me out of my comfort zone in a way that I wouldn't go to without external help. Probably another one to mention, my friend Matthew Wilson. He is primarily like a rapper, but he's one of the most creative individuals I've ever met, and has helped me grow in my lyricism and my creative writing in like ways I can't even calculate. It's crazy. He's so creative, so good at coming up with cadence, different words that I wouldn't naturally come to my vocabulary. And then I'm like, actually, that is exactly what I'm trying to say. He raps under a name, Levi the Ether Child now is his artist name. And he's so gifted and so kind and so patient, and has taught me a lot about writing lyrics as well. So those are like a lot of people in my creative space that have kind of been a core piece of what has made not only that project what it is, but kind of shaped a lot of where I'm going as well.
Right. And I can just see that from when I first met you to now. But I want to pivot because you already answered my next question. But now I want to like speak from my own personal experience, because in collaboration I have a really tough time letting things go, because when you're creating any sort of art, it's like your child.
Yeah.
Like you are creating it from the moment that you come up with the idea to the actual demonstration of it, and it's like final state. So knowing that it's tricky, and knowing how I have a hard time giving that up when you're working with all these different creative people that you not only value their input but value them as people, how do you then go about making sure that everyone's ideas have weight and merit, but also you want to stay true to your own vision?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And maybe in my last, like what I was just saying, made it sound like I'm just so naturally good at letting go, but I'm not. Like I'm like it is hard. Like you said, it's really tough to have a creative idea in your mind and then kind of let people in on it. You likened it to a child, or there's a lot of things like that come to my mind. Like I don't like to share my food. Like I'm the type of my food, if somebody's like, "Hey, can I get a bite?" I'm like, "No," and I'm territorial about my creative ideas as well. So I like this question. I think one of the realizations I've had is that through this creative process, I've learned a lot of humility. I've learned a lot of realizing I'm not the center of the world, and that while my ideas are good, I think I have a lot of good ideas to bring to the table. That I'm limited by it just being my idea. Like the potential of this creative endeavor has a ceiling when it's just me. Is that a good ceiling? I would argue confidently I have a good ceiling with a lot of these ideas. But that ceiling is a ceiling, and there's a limit on kind of where that is through just what I can achieve on my own merit and my own ideas. Whenever you bring more people onto the table, or more people to the table, you start to raise that ceiling on what the potential of that idea is. And there's going to be growing pains and challenges, and, maybe some tug of war at times. And I haven't always handled those interactions super well, just being honest and transparent. There's been times where I've had friends kind of bring to my attention when we've kind of all been collaborating together, like, hey, like this person kind of had this idea and you kind of like usurped the direction of it. And I know it's your project, but maybe we should have looked at that a little bit more. And sorry, my cat is making an appearance. Shout out to my cat Rue. And that's like tough when you hear people kind of call you out, like, hey, maybe you didn't handle that well. And then I have like one of two options. I can either accept responsibility for that and acknowledge, like, man, maybe I diminished some of that creative fire this person had that could have made this better. And then just learn from that. And the next time, being super open. When it's a project like my Golden EP I worked on, like I get the final say on everything. And so why not hear people out, and why not try everything first and see where something goes and recognize that, if it's not good, or if I don't like it, then that's okay. I can always pivot away from that. But also take drums for example. I play the drums, but there's playing the drums and there's playing the drums like my friend Devin plays the drums. And that's where it's something like I could have this idea for drumming and that's a ceiling, and then Devin is so much better at that specifically. And while I'm overseeing this creative project and I have all these ideas for synths and drums and guitars and vocals and lyrics and mixes and masters and effects and like all this stuff, he's like very good at like this is his lane. And so trusting
Hmm.
people, like my friend Ethan is really good at the synth thing. I can trust him in that lane. My friend Matthew in his lyrics, like I can trust him in that lane. And then I kind of like take my ideas and kind of filter them through the expertise and the guidance and the encouragement of these people who are a lot better at those specific things than I am decent at all of it. It takes like decent at all of it to now all those specific things are so much better in their own regard. And so I think like once you try letting go a little bit and once you trust some people and watch the fruit of that, it gets easier over time because with that specific relationship, you're like, hey, I work with this person. I know how it goes. Like I can trust them. And then it gets easier the more that you start to let go and let people kind of alter something. I would encourage creative individuals not to compromise the vision, but to recognize that your vision isn't in full like 2020 clarity from your starting conception of the idea in your mind. And that once you bring in other people to help, it can become so much better than you ever imagined from that initial idea that you had just on your own.
Right. I feel like that takes jack of all trades, master of none to a whole different level.
Yeah,
Whole different level. I think you explained that perfectly.
that's something that I've struggled with. Of sometimes like being insecure about that. Like I feel like I'm a jack of all trades, like in music, but I'm a master of none of it. And then I've had friends be like, "Yeah, but that's really good because then you have a good floor for everything.
Yeah.
The ceiling may not be as high as you want, but that's why you get people to help, you know?
Hmm.
And so that, yeah, I've found a lot of peace in that in recent years. But I think it comes to kind of what you poked at of like, you got to trust people and like bring other people into your circle and then they can make those ideas better. So then you bring masters for all those things that you're not a master at.
No, right. And it like makes you able to be a mediator between people too, which I think is a skill not very many people can do well, but also with different characteristics and archetypes of the individuals at play because everyone's so different, everyone has different backgrounds, but being able to mediate those relationships, especially when working on a project, is so important. I think
Yeah.
you do that incredibly well. Incredibly
Thank
well.
you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, is there a specific moment thinking back where when you're working with someone, they pushed you outside your comfort zone in a way that completely changed the direction of the project?
Yeah. I mean, there's several I can think of. I mean, for one, so this golden EP that I was working on, I had some ideas for visually where I wanted to go, as far as like how I wanted my album art to look, and I had some ideas in my mind. I don't even remember specifically what they were in comparison to the final product, but I remember they were not as good as what the final product ended up being, which is the moral of the story. But I had an idea of, I think it was trying to be something that wasn't me, like something that wasn't like kind of
Yeah.
authentic to who I am and to where I was trying to go. And my friend Cole, his brand that he operates, his company is Clickta, and he does visuals and video work, photo work, album arts. He's very talented, very gifted. My friend Cole Plickta, and he flew out to Kansas from Nashville, Tennessee, and hands on was able to be like, all right, here's some ideas and here's some props and here's some things that we could do and think through. And we want to shoot at this time of the day because of sunlight and because this will fit in with this lyrical theme. And he had like all these ideas that um, very quickly I was like, oh, like I'm just going to let you do your thing. And I remember when we got back to, we actually drove out to Manhattan and went to Konza Prairie, which you were there for that.
Yeah.
I remember getting back to the apartment in Lawrence and looking at the photos and graphics that he had, and I was like, this is so much better than what I thought. And so that was like a that was kind of easy for me to let go because I'm not a primarily a visual arts person. I would consider myself like somebody who cares about it a lot and somebody who pays attention and has some basic knowledge of it, but by no means would I even put myself in that if the jack of all trades. Like that's not even one of my trades, I would say, let alone master of it. And so it was kind of easy to let go of that. But the hard part was this isn't what I thought at first, like this isn't what I envisioned, and this isn't what kind of my expectations were. And I think my favorite part was he had this prop thing with this light, and his idea of this light kind of shining while there was this dark I don't know, visual around added so much to then like I had a song I wrote kind of inspired by that made it on the project, The Light. I had the melody and the chords, and I'd played guitar with that little idea, but it had never been like lyrically, I didn't really know what to do with it. And then whenever I ended up doing this photo shoot for the project, I was inspired by the visuals that he captured to kind of connect some dots and write a song. So that was, a lot of people may not look at the visual arts as something that can affect their musical endeavors, but firsthand I can say it definitely did. And that was awesome
Mhm.
to be a part of. And my friend Cole doesn't do music, but he photographs and captures a lot of artists and a lot of creative people in Nashville. And whenever you invite somebody in to bring some creative ideas, it can take something to a whole different place that you never thought. And that completely shaped a song that is the most streamed song on that project. So I think that
It's
one's
like
your
it's
favorite.
one of my favorites. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's an earworm, and like the melody especially. It just once it's in your head, it doesn't leave. It's so good.
Yeah, that one was, it was a lot of fun, and it wouldn't exist without kind of this concept of, a creative idea pushing you out of your comfort zone and challenging your perspective and taking you to a place that you wouldn't have gone without somebody's external ideas. So it was a lot of fun. I'm really proud of that song, and so shout out to Cole for helping bring that to
Yeah, that was so fun to be a part of too, just like that creative vision. One of the previous artists I talked to, I asked the question like what comes first for you, the lyrics or the music? Like what comes first? And for them it was the music. But I think in this case it's almost a step further. It's like what comes first before the idea? That visual aspect spurring on everything else. And it's almost like a avalanche or like a snowball effect where it just keeps like rolling, rolling, rolling. And I think that's really cool. And I think it has a lot to say just about the creative process as a whole. So
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, songwriting is so interesting because inspiration can come from a million different angles. And I would consider myself like as a songwriter, like I don't necessarily have a go-to tactic or order of operations. And maybe that's limiting my efficiency and I need to work on that. But sometimes sometimes it's the music first, sometimes the lyrics first, sometimes the album art, sometimes it's a bunch of different ways, and
Right.
it's fun to hear how different creatives find their spark.
Yeah. It's so cool. And it just goes to show that there's not like one true process. Especially when you have a bunch of people working on it. It needs to change because it needs to be flexible because life changes. And it's a
Right.
reflection of who we are.
Mhm.
But like kind of what you're talking about is that piece of trust and collaboration and just how personal it is. How do you decide who to let into that process?
Yeah, so anyone that I bring into a creative process, I always, and well, let me clarify. I haven't always. I have like one or two exceptions to this, and both of those have cost me. So now something that I always do, but I always just like test out the relational aspect I have with someone first. Now that like breaks a lot of people's standards of like business and relationship, and I get that, but I think you can navigate those lines when you know someone. You can kind of navigate where those lines should be drawn on like business and relationship when it comes to not only your conversation but financially and expectations. I think communication is like the clearest way to do that. Like just be like, hey, like upfront, like here are kind of the business expectations. If you're going on a trip with that friend and there's going to be creative process involved with that there's a business expectation, like you should honor that person's business costs, and you should honor the creative elements of it, and even schedule it out like, hey, like we're locked in business wise from this time to this time, or something. But anytime I let somebody into my creative circle, like from the jump, like let's say I don't know this person at all, but I admire their creative work. Let's say they're a visual artist, and I'm like, hey, I like their album art and stuff that they do. I'd love for them to work with me on that. I could just be like, hey, absolutely cold, like I'm working on a song called blank, and I'm looking for, like, here's a visual that would fit that really well, and just like hand it to them and hire them to do it, and kind of be like a mercenary thing. I don't like to do that though. Like I like to, hey, my name's JAYLEN, da 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 da, introduce myself. I'd love to chat with you sometime, over FaceTime, and see if there's a way that our creative paths could cross. And then from there we kind of get to talk about who we are as people, and what we value, and what are our inspirations, and then like those conversations will kind of spur on more ways for us to kind of feel out the chemistry of what it could look like to collaborate, and not only collaborate, but like to be friends, and to kind of just be people that encourage one another in their creative paths. And so, I don't have to agree with somebody on everything. I don't have to share the same worldview as them. I think there's just a basic threshold of creative chemistry that should be had, that I don't like to rush the vetting process on necessarily. I'd rather take my time with a project or a song or an idea, and if that takes, talking to a few different people about it, and feeling out different options for whatever role I need to fill, then that's kind of, what I'll do. But I'm I'm the type of person, I think, where it may be a little tough to get into my creative circle, but then like once you're in my creative circle, like I'm a super loyal person, that's like I'll be there for them like whatever they need. Um I I have a lot of trust that goes into like letting somebody in there, and then once they're in, it's like, oh, like this is my dog, like this is my there's a lot of kind of rapport that's built over the time, and once you kind of cross that threshold into the circle of allowing you to speak into different ideas, and allowing you to challenge my thoughts, and it's like, oh, like this is somebody that I trust, and somebody that I respect, and you never forget why you invited them in the first place. Like you invited them in because you admire what they do, and allow that admiration to translate into trust, and then see where that can take you. So I would say, like, for me, like I'm a big, like, through social media, networking, finding people. It's kind of how like you and I found each other, through social media, and um hopefully like you can see or attest to like maybe what I'm talking about, of letting somebody in, and like now that we've had a relationship, a friendship that's been built, it's a lot easier over time to kind of grant trust, and our relationship has grown over the, what is it, a year and a half,
I think it's been almost 3.
3.
Yeah, I think 2.5, 3 years. Yeah,
Oh dang, I forget it's 2025, so my math is off.
right.
Yeah, no, actually that is checking out, because well, we met in person, but through social media you had posted like a recap video of a Gable Price and Friends show, which is an artist that you and I both really like. And
hmm
um there was just a lot of creative similarities that I saw from just checking out your social media. And then I was like, oh, like she does branding stuff and has these creative ideas, and I was just like, hey, I really need help with that. And but first it was like, hey, I'd love to, like, this is kind of what I'm interested in, but love
Yeah,
to know you more. And you're like vice versa. And so like my wife and I just drove out to Manhattan and grabbed some coffee, and like it just like, sit and chill at like a bookstore or whatever. And it's like
yeah,
that's a great way to be like, hey, like let's just talk and just get to know each other, and kind of feel out the the chemistry of this. And but now it's like you're in the circle, so it's like it's my dog for real.
yeah. Where like, I feel so honored by that. But even just like throughout this whole conversation, is anytime you're referring to someone, it's like, oh yeah, my friend. Before it's like a colleague, or yeah, I worked with so and so. Where like there's the times and places for things to be transactional. You get something done, you don't speak again, or maybe you have a good you have good feelings and good like towards a certain person, but you don't have that friendship. But for you, it's like friendship and it's deep and it's personal because I definitely relate to that part is art and creating things is highly personal and vulnerable at times. And so having those close relationships is just something that you do especially well. And I really admire that.
Yeah, I understand that like that kind of, maybe is setting me up in some way of like getting hurt, but that's every relationship.
No,
That's
exactly.
like you can't get hurt through the transactional relationships. I assure you, you can. Like, like
Yeah.
had one of those purely business transactional relationships can relate to that. Like it might make it statistically easier, but nothing is, the Titanic was supposed to be perfect and that went down. Like it doesn't matter
Hmm.
why you set yourself up. Like you're gonna have hardships and you're gonna take some scars with you through the process. I would rather trust my chances with people that I've built a relationship with and I can talk to
Hmm.
them and we can, hash things out because we have a relationship. And so, like, yeah, I truly look at opportunities when I collaborate with someone as like, hey, this is a way for me to kind of build a friendship and relationship. And I've personally found in my own endeavors that that's made my creative and journey better.
Yeah. I think it gives it more meaning and more depth, which is awesome. Which is a great segue because it's not just about music, but you're a dad now. And it's a whole different type of creative partnership and just journey in general. So what's that been like?
Yeah, being a has been the most fulfilling yet the most challenging thing at the same time ever walked through. So not only, I mean, talk about pushing out your comfort zone, like all kinds of ways. But I think what I've loved so much about being a dad is how my wife Grace and I have grown closer together through our son Devin being born and each developmental step that he walks through. It's just like another way that our family is growing and our family is like it's like every new skill he learns is like a new joy, like a new something to celebrate. He's inspired me creatively in a lot of ways too. I wrote a song. I haven't recorded it yet, but I'll record it eventually. But it's called Little Hands, and I wrote it off of being inspired. By, like one day, I was just holding, like he had his little hand around my finger and was just holding on, and I just remember being like, I don't want his hands to get big. Like I don't want him to grow up. I don't want him to go off to college one day. Like I don't want to. Like there's all these things that I was kind of like, I don't know, was already feeling sad about like man like he's so small and he's so cute and I just it's hard recognizing that he's gonna grow up one day and all this stuff. And so I kind of wrote this song about processing some of that, but also just celebrating his life and the little joy that he is and the little joy that he brings in all of the areas of my life, whether it be creatively, spiritually, mentally, relationally. I mean, it's been really cool to see how becoming a dad has opened my eyes to see the world in a different way. I don't recommend this for anyone to just jump into. Oh, that sounds great. Let me go be a dad. No, but it's it's been amazing. It's been hard. It's been tough, but it's been so good. It's being a dad was always my biggest dream. Like over anything, over like playing a concert at Red Rocks, that's like on the list. It's like a bucket list thing. Like if somebody was like, you could do that tomorrow or be a dad, it's like, I'd rather be a dad. Like, and that
Hmm.
maybe like, that's not true. But like it is, like it genuinely something so outstanding about watching his eyes light up as he learns something and sees the world. And I'm a big fan of the trend where it's like showing my kid something he's never seen before. And so like we'll just
Yeah.
be in Walmart and I'll be like, you want to see the top of the beans aisle and like just like pick them up. And it's like, but even like as a joke, it's just fun to watch him discover things and fall in love with the world because it's a beautiful place. It's hard and it's scary out there, but there's so many little things that we take for granted that watching him as a child discover for the first time and realizing like there's beauty in all of these things and like watching him see snow for the first time. I was just complaining about snow. It's snow outside right now, but I'm over here complaining about it and he's like, like loving because he it's different, it's new.
Yeah.
exciting. So yeah, being a dad has been awesome. It's been tough. It's brought my wife and I closer together though, and it's the most fulfilling creative process and endeavor I've ever been through.
Yeah. I think that's great way to like kind of lead into talking about Grace a little bit, like singing with her. First time I ever heard you guys sing together was at the backyard concert. What was that? I think that was like a year and a half ago. And I think that was just something super special to like witness, but also from like your perspective, I can only imagine like how awesome it is to be able to share that with your wife.
Yeah. So we first when we met at my wife's home church, and she had grown up singing in that church. And there was a Christmas Eve service where we sang a special song together. And so, kind of like the first inklings of our relationship were rooted in collaboration and singing together. And we sing together almost every Sunday at the church that I serve as a worship and youth pastor at. She is the better singer of the two of us. It's not really a debate. She likes to be humble and joke about like, oh, you're no Grace. Everybody knows Grace is the better singer, and that's okay. Once again, grades master, like she's a really good singer, and that's something that she's really good at. And she's taught me so much about how to sing better, how to proper vocal placement, and she's taught me how to be confident, and that confidence is kind of the root in sounding better when you sing. But I think what I love the most is like our voices blend together so well, and it's something that I feel like was just like God had in the cards this whole time of like, hey, like I'm gonna bring two people together whose voices are just gonna mesh and sound good, and our vocal timbres just like they blend. And whenever we get to sing together, I just feel like we just sounded so much better than the two of us could on our own. Obviously, I'm biased because that's my wife, but it's just so sweet and so fun whenever we get to do that together. It's a treat. And so I look forward to I've been trying for years telling her like, hey, I'm trying to record some stuff and want us to do some things together. And she's become more and more open to it over the years. So who knows? Maybe
Good.
a project one day where it'll be the two of our voices together.
Yeah, no, I think that is long overdue. So if I have any sway in that, I would tell her that I would love to hear it.
Absolutely
So,
will
yeah.
do. Like everybody's like her voice is so good. She's such a
No, it
good.
is.
And when the two of us are together, it's better than just my voice on my own. And I love anytime the two of us get to sing together. It's always fun. It's always the best.
Yeah. No, I think that's really special. You have like, especially from, again, I keep saying this, but from when I first met you to now, it's just like very, very special with the people that you surround yourself with. And I think that's a definite strength to who you are.
Yeah, I of all the people I've creatively collabed with, Grace takes the cake though for sure. She she gets first,
Yeah.
the best creative partnership I've had. Uh,
Right.
yeah, absolutely.
No, it's awesome. Well, now it's time for the outro. So, what's next for you? What do you have upcoming in the books or projects that you're excited about or even just thinking about right now?
Yeah, so like I said, I've got a song Little Hand that I've wrote that will be recorded and will be released ideally this year. Which some people will be like, "Oh my gosh, this year it's February. That's a lot of time." But it just like I've got a couple different projects I'm mulling over in my mind. A couple different creative ideas. I'm really really excited. It's all going to be great, and it'll all happen eventually. It's just a matter of when. So I
Mhm.
can't speak necessarily too much to when, other than I'm active, I'm working, I'm writing, I'm collaborating with all those people I've been talking about. I'm really stoked to put out some more music and stuff, because that's kind of the whole reason why as creative people we write and record stuff is like I love to share it with people. So I'm
Mhm.
excited to share some more art with people this year. We'll get some stuff going for sure. And as far as like what I've been listening to and what has like been inspiring me, my friend Devin's album with Flip Turn has been really good. Burnout Days, that's been great. I've been bumping Kendrick Lamar. I was pumped with his Super Bowl performance. A lot of people are like, it wasn't good. I'm like, you guys are crazy. It was good.
They just want any excuse to hate.
But I feel like they say this every year. Like every
They
year, it
do.
doesn't matter. It doesn't
They
matter.
do.
There's always like this complaint that it was the worst show ever. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Was it or was it good? And I guess I don't know. So I yeah. So Kendrick, Flip Turn, And I've really been listening to a lot of U2, like 80s, 90s U2.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, so like kind of the godfathers of like alt rock and that kind of like more, I don't know. I don't know how to like, I've just been listening to a ton of their stuff. I had a friend, Charlie, who I talked about earlier. He's a big U2 fan, and he put together a playlist for me, and that's been a godsend because I was like, they have so much music. Like, where do I start? And he was like, I'll make you a playlist. And he did. He came through. It's like, I think it's like 4 hours long or something.
Wow.
But like, it's so good. And so I've been listening to a lot of their stuff. Even watching, like, I watched their Tiny Desk that Bono and the Edge did, and that was so cool. Like, just to see like a stripped, like, acoustic guitar and Bono, so Edge on acoustic and Bono singing, and they brought in like a choir from, they were in Chicago, I think, and brought in like a school choir to sing, and that
Hmm.
was fun and inspiring. So listening to a lot of U2 recently, honestly, has been super fun. I'm a big movie guy, so I watch tons of movies, and that inspires me. I recently just showed a friend Interstellar for the first
Oh,
time,
wow.
and even just as I finished that, I was so inspired. Like, that's just such a great movie. It's such a good movie.
Hmm.
Even the scoring, like music Hans Zimmer did in that. I know like a lot of stuff's been viral and people use them in TikToks and Instagram reels and whatever, but it really is great. That movie is just all around. I really don't have much to say negative about that movie. Matthew McConaughey's acting,
Hmm.
so good, so good.
You should
Jessica,
have taken him to see it in theaters
I know it was in
for the
IMAX.
anniversary. Yeah,
I didn't get a chance to
I know.
go.
No, me neither. And it's been kind of killing me inside.
I know that's like, people talk like the one that got away, or like there's like all these things that they regret.
Yeah.
That's gonna be something that I'm like, how did I not just cancel everything I had to go see?
No,
Because
exactly.
would I have regretted it? No, you know. So
Mm-mm.
now I've got to look at it as like, anytime I see these opportunities come up to go see another movie like that, that's a rerun in IMAX. Like, I'm just gonna go. I'm not gonna think about it, to cancel whatever it is and just go see it. But yeah, I'm big, movies have inspired me a lot, my creative endeavors too, and so that Interstellar is definitely one of them that has pushed my music and that kind of thing. So yeah, I'll be writing and recording. I'll get some stuff out this year, but that's kind of all I have officially on the record to be able to say about like when it is all coming together. So yeah.
Well, where can people find you, your music, your stuff, stay up to date with what you have going on?
Yeah, on Instagram, that's my primary platform. I'm not as good as I need to be at everything else. So all things JAYLEN IG is my Instagram handle, and Spotify is just JAYLEN all caps. Apple Music, same thing. I'm on all major streaming platforms. I think in my bio on Instagram, if you go there, you can click and see kind of different platforms to go stream. I could be wrong. I need to put that in there if not. But anyway, Instagram, all things Jalen IG is probably the best place to go, and from there can kind of be directed all kinds of places. But I think you helped me kind of restart my social media to be able to be like a place where I'm like, hey, people come land here, and you can kind of feel and see what I'm like. And so, yeah, Instagram would be like the place I direct everybody to. I need to get on the TikTok before it goes officially away. Uh,
Right.
I need to take advantage of that. I've done some lives on Instagram and TikTok. Um, but yeah, that's probably social media through Instagram is the best way to find me, and stream the stuff on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon. Who knows? MySpace, it could have been on there. You could have put that as your song. Yeah, but that probably Instagram best place to find me.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you again for your time, for sharing. I feel like this was really insightful for not only me, but hopefully someone else, just because I think you have so much good experience and opinions and perspectives to share on what the creative process and working with other people can look like, ideally and not so ideally. And I just really appreciate everything that you talked about today. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.